Movie buffs, welcome back to the Movie Bay. This is D. In today's video, we're going to take a look at 10 movies. I think I got 11 here, but we're going to say 10 movies where the movie that we know and love initially wasn't really intended for the actors that made these movies great. So without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at some really cool movies. In fact, just about all of these movies went on to become blockbusters and mega hits. But the actors who's in the lead role in all of these movies wasn't really the first choice, or in some cases, the script was written with another actor in mind. So without further ado, some of these are going to surprise you, some of them aren't. So we're going to start this thing off with Forrest Gump. We know Tom Hanks made this movie what it is, and I highly doubt anyone else could have done this. But for you to know that John Travolta was the first choice for Forrest Gump. Yeah, John Travolta. Now, I'm going to give you my personal opinion on how I feel about the movie. In my personal opinion, it's just that. But John Travolta was the first choice to play Forrest Gump. He rejected the role. He didn't see the vision with the role. Now, me personally, I'm glad Tom Hanks took it. No disrespect to John Travolta. I definitely think he's a Hollywood legend. He's got a lot of great roles under his belt. But I don't think, well, I'm not going to say he don't have the range. I just don't think John Travolta would have did this the way, he wouldn't have done it the way Hanks did it. I just think when it comes down to Hanks and Travolta, they got very different styles. Now, again, like I said, that takes nothing away from Travolta. Travolta got range, but I think Hanks got the range for this movie. He's got more range for a movie like this than Travolta. Don't get me wrong. Again, Travolta, he did that movie Fanatic, and wow, he did that. But this right here, I'm glad they went with Tom Hanks. Most of these movies, I'm going to say I'm glad they went with who we got. Some of them, I'm going to swing either way. Next up, now this is going to be one that I can go either way with the first choice. For The Godfather, Jack Nicholson rejected the role of Michael Corleone. Jack Nicholson as Michael Corleone, I think that would have been good too. I think that would have been real good. I don't know if it would have been better than Pacino, but that would have been good. And the reason why it's hard to say we don't think it would have been better, because Pacino is what we got. And Pacino has been what we got. So when we think about The Godfather, Pacino is one of the names that come up. Pacino, James Caan, Marlon Brando. So, you know, that's pretty much what we think about when we think about The Godfather. But Jack Nicholson is Michael Corleone. I can see that. I could see that more than I could see John Travolta doing Gump. Next up, the first choice. Well, when I say first, might not have been first choice, but scripts get rejected by a lot of actors. Reject certain movies, so they usually pass the script around, and it get rejected a few times. Especially the bigger the actor, the greater the chance of the script getting rejected, unless they feel like it's a big movie, a movie that can help them out. But they passed. I'm quite sure all of these scripts got passed around, but the most notable ones is the one I'm plucking. So Hugh Jackman refused to play Bond. And I can kind of understand that. Certain roles, I would imagine, as a Hollywood actor, especially an up-and-comer, would be intimidating. And you don't want to take that role and mess it up, because you would be hated, especially a well-loved IP like the 007 franchise. It's a well-loved franchise. It's been around for, gosh, what, 50, 60 years at this point? So it's a long-running, loved franchise. And you don't want to get in there and mess it up. Do I think Hugh Jackman could have did Bond? Yeah, I think he could have. But I'm glad we got Daniel Craig. Funny thing is, the studios went with Craig, but the fan base didn't like Craig. They say he didn't have the look. They said he was too short to play Bond. They said he didn't have the black hair. They said he didn't have the stereotypical Bond look, and he didn't. But I'm here to tell you, once we all saw Casino Royale, we all believed in Daniel Craig. So yeah, I'm glad we got Daniel Craig, and he did a great job, and he was the longest running Bond. So I want to say he played Bond for 17 years. So he played Bond for a minute. So yeah, Hugh Jackman rejected the role of 007 James Bond, and I can understand why. That's one of them roles where if you're not going to be sure you're going to get in there and kill it, don't even take it, especially if you're up and coming. Because taking a role like that and mess it up, I think if you're up and coming, you can mess your career up. All right. Now, we're going to talk about, there was a lot of actors who rejected this script. They passed this script around like COVID, and it got bounced around until Keanu Reeves and Keanu Reeves took the role. Tom Cruise initially was offered the role, and he rejected the role, saying the movie wasn't big enough for him. Again, he probably didn't see the vision. And a lot of times, too, these movies get pitched to these actors that they want, and it might not be the final script. So they will read a script before rewrites, and then they'll reject it. But there's been times where actors was presented scripts here, and the script underwent rewrites after they rejected the script, and then they say, hey, no fair. So Tom Cruise rejected Speed. He said the movie, in an interview, he said the movie wasn't really big enough for him. And Sandra Bullock was not the first choice to play her role either. That was rejected by Halle Berry, who went on later to say she regret that choice because Speed turned out to be a really, really big movie. And it's still a big movie today. Speed went on to become a classic, a really big movie and a classic. So yeah, Speed. Tom Cruise, I can see Tom Cruise and Halle Berry in this and doing a pretty good job. Because the Sandra Bullock character, it wasn't a ton of acting there. Of course, it was some acting there, but it wasn't a ton. But I do like the casting choice that we got with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves because at the time they both was very young. They both looked young. And then when Keanu Reeves, they made him cut his hair off the studio and go with the buzz cut. So that made him look even younger. Keanu always looked young and had that boy next door look. And so did Sandra Bullock. So I think they played well together in this movie. And I think Halle Berry would have did a good job. I'm not a fan of Halle Berry's acting. You guys know that. But I think in a movie like this, for that role, just driving the bus, I think Halle Berry could have pulled it off, and Tom Cruise definitely could have pulled it off. So, yeah, either way, that Speed would have been a good movie. If they went with Tom Cruise and Halle Berry, it would have been a good movie either way. So, yeah, that was a good casting choice, Halle Berry and Tom Cruise. I'm going to go ahead and say that would have been a good casting choice for Speed. But I'm glad with who we got. Next up, Tom Hanks again. Tom Hanks rejected the role of Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption. And I'm going to say Tom Hanks could have pulled this off. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and say Tom Hanks would have made a really good Andy Dufresne. But I'm glad we got Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins, he did it. He really did it. So I think Tom Hanks definitely had the range to play Andy Dufresne for sure. So, yeah, I mean, this is one where Tom Hanks, Tim Robbins, I think for this role, they both were pretty interchangeable. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think Tom Hanks could have pulled off Andy Dufresne. But, I'm so glad we got Tim Robbins. I'm glad. He really did it. And this is one that's probably more well-known to just about everybody. Will Smith rejected the role of Neo. And part of the rejection was he didn't really understand the script. The first Matrix was a movie that came out, and it took the world by storm. It took Hollywood by storm. It was so different, so ahead of its time with the effects and everything else. It went on to set standards in Hollywood for special effects for years. It set standards in video games. In some video games, they call it the slow motion bullet time in the Max Payne games. It just went on and set a lot of standards, the first Matrix. And Will Smith, now I'm going to say this, I don't think Will Smith would have been right for this movie. And I think him and his people knew that. Will Smith is a good actor. No, I take that back. Will Smith is a great actor. But I don't think he was right for this. I think he would have brought too much swag to this movie. And this isn't this is not a movie for swag. This is a movie for basically an actor like Keanu Reeves who can do that unassuming geeky type role, then flip it and, turn the machismo on. So Will Smith, I think he would have just brought too much swag and too much coolness to Neo, if that's what the studio was going for. But I think Keanu brought a balance to the role. He gave you that geeky, soft, shy. Then he flipped it and became, the one. So, could Will Smith have played Neo? Absolutely. Do I think he had the range to play Neo? Yeah, but it would have been different. That's all I'm saying. It would have been different. So, I'm kind of glad Will Smith backed out and realized this movie was out of his wheelhouse. But he rejected this movie for a couple of reasons. So one of the reasons was his people, his team didn't think this was right for him, but he wanted to do Wild Wild West. And we saw the swag that he brought to Wild Wild West. So bringing that kind of swag to this, me personally, I didn't see it working. Again, not taking nothing from Will Smith. I think he's definitely a great actor, not just a good actor, a great actor. Next up, we got, here's one that I think this one is going to swing either way. But again, most of these movies, I'm glad we got who we got. It just worked. 7. Denzel Washington turned down the role of Mills, which is the Brad Pitt character. He turned it down, and at the time, he thought the script was just too dark for him. He didn't want to do that. Denzel got, I could think of a couple of roles that Denzel got this dark, in dark movies like Fallen. That's a pretty dark movie. And I got to look at it. I'm not sure which one came first, but Fallen, that's a pretty deep, pretty dark movie. Probably almost as dark as this one. Probably. But 7 has gone on to become a classic. All of these movies that I'm going to show you are classics. But Denzel Washington turning down Mills, I think either way we would have won with Denzel Washington or Brad Pitt. But I will say this. I think Brad Pitt, his chemistry, his on-screen chemistry with Morgan Freeman, it worked. He played the young, brash, inexperienced detective. He clashed with Morgan Freeman, who was the more seasoned, more chiseled detective, who was just basically fed up with the shit at this point, and he was ready to retire. And I think their energies played off of each other. And that rivalry, it kind of worked itself out near the end of the movie. So I do like the fact that we got Brad Pitt. Denzel, would that have worked? Yeah, but again, Denzel Washington, it would have been a little bit different. So I'm very grateful that we got Brad Pitt in the role because this is my favorite movie of all times. So yeah, I'm happy with the casting choice in this movie, definitely. But again, Denzel Washington playing Mills, Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman, that would have been interesting. You damn right that would have been interesting. But again, Brad Pitt was a good choice. Next up, Tom Hanks again. I will say this about Tom Hanks, and this is why I say Tom Hanks is one of the few actors I feel like really had the range to do Forrest Gump. I mean, really. Tom Hanks was offered Jerry Maguire, and he turned it down. And I'm glad he did because, again, he got the range to do it, but Tom Cruise, in my opinion, Tom Cruise got more swag than Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is a great actor, but Tom Cruise got more swag than him. And I think to play the role of Jerry Maguire required an actor with a little swag like Tom Cruise. I'm not saying he's the most, he's got more swag than Will Smith. Will Smith would have been a good choice for Jerry Maguire too, but he wasn't offered it. But Tom Cruise took it, and I'm glad he did. But again, Tom Hanks, he could have played Jerry Maguire. Again, I think it would have been a little bit different because Tom Hanks just don't have the same swag as Tom Cruise to play Jerry Maguire. And that's just my opinion. Next up, and this is one, and again, with this movie, I'm going to say, I'm glad Tom Hanks didn't get the role. I'm glad we got Tom Cruise. This is not an either way. The next one is going to be either way. So we got Lord of the Rings, and the role of Gandalf was initially offered to Sean Connery, but he turned it down. Ian McKellen, excellent job as Gandalf. No complaints, no problems, but I think Sean Connery could have did that just as well. They both seasoned actors, both got the accents and all of that shit going on. Both are classically trained actors. So yeah, I think we would have won either way with either Sean Connery or who we got, Ian McKellen. So yeah, either way on this one. We won either way. Next up, this is one that surprised me when I was doing the research for this video. Al Pacino was offered the role of Han Solo. Now, he was offered the role before Harrison Ford was offered the role. The studio, Lucas wanted Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford and Lucas go back to American Graffiti. But the people back in the movie, the people with the money who was back in the movie, they wanted Al Pacino. But Pacino said no, but I think Harrison Ford was going, I think Lucas was going to go with Harrison Ford regardless. But anyway, Al Pacino turned it down. I guess he didn't understand the whole, space movies at that time. They had a run. Space movies had a run before Star Wars, and they kind of fell out of favor. Genres, they come and go. Genres that have a big run, they'll fall out of favor. Then you have a movie like this that will revitalize a genre. Like superhero movies. They had a small run before the MCU, but the MCU and Batman movies, like Batman movies, they had their run. Then the MCU came out, and that revitalized superhero movies. So, again, space movies had a run up until this point. They kind of fell out of favor with the public. But Star Wars came back, and it really, brought the whole space movie subgenre back. But Al Pacino, do I think he would have did a good job as Han Solo? Maybe, because we're talking a very young Al Pacino. But I don't know if he would have had the same, again, certain roles, to me, the actor got to have a certain level of swag. And I think Al Pacino is a great actor, a great dramatic actor, but I don't think he got the swag of a Harrison Ford. You understand what I'm saying? Like, some actors are really good dramatic actors, and some of them are good dramatic actors, and they got swag. They got gravitas. They got machismo. And Harrison Ford, he's, especially when he was younger doing this movie, he was kind of oozing with machismo. So, yeah. Harrison Ford, I'm glad we got Harrison Ford. I'm glad we did not get Al Pacino, because I think he could have done it, but it would have just been different. So, yeah, that's not either way. I'm glad we got Harrison Ford. Next up is one that I think I'm going to say, let's talk about it. Batman. Batman Begins. Quite a few actors auditioned for this role. They didn't get it, obviously. But Josh Hartnett was one who actually was offered the role, and he turned it down. But they didn't really go into a lot of detail as to why he turned it down. But I will say this. Me personally, I think part of the reason could have been Josh Hartnett was not, even to this day, he's not really a big actor. He's not big. I think he's got talent. And to be honest with you, I think he could have pulled this off. He's got the look. He's got the look for sure. He's got the build. He's proportioned well enough to do this. He's got the look. At the time, he was young enough to do it. So I think Josh Hartnett could have did Batman and Bruce Wayne. I think he would have did a good job. Better than Christian Bale? I don't think so, because Christian Bale is a dynamic actor. I mean, Christian Bale is shit. So I love Christian Bale and everything he's in. His filmography is very impressive. But I think Josh Hartnett, if Christian Bale didn't step in, I definitely think Josh Hartnett could have pulled this off. I think so. He got the physicality. He's got the look. Yeah, I think he could have did it. But I'm glad we got Christian Bale. But I'm going to say, either way, I think that would have worked. If we would have got Josh Hartnett, I don't know if the movie, I think the movie would have been good, me personally. I don't think he would have screwed it up. But I think part of the reason why he turned it down was because he still wasn't really like super established in his career, and maybe he thought he was going to get typecasted. Maybe he thought he would mess it up, because you got to remember, this was rebooting Batman. We was coming off of Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, which was a train wreck. I think Batman was toxic for a lot of actors. I think a lot of male actors didn't want to go no way near Batman because of the poor reputation that Batman and Robin got. So yeah, I think Josh Hartnett could have did that. So I'm going to say on that one, either way, but I'm glad we got Bale. Speaking of Batman, The Dark Knight. The role of Harvey Dent was offered to Matt Damon, and he turned it down. I'm not sure why he turned it down, but I'm going to go ahead and say maybe Matt Damon didn't think the role of Harvey Dent was big enough. If you know anything about comic books, and who knows what his comic book knowledge was, anybody who knows comic books would have known that Harvey Dent in a Batman story, period, is a big character because of what he goes on to become. He goes on to become one of Batman's rivals and one of his biggest rogues in his rogues gallery. So, yeah, the role of Harvey Dent was a pretty decent role in this movie. It was a pretty big role. So, I'm not really sure why Matt Damon turned it down. Do I think Matt Damon could have pulled off Harvey Dent just as good as Aaron Eckhart? Better. Yes, I think Matt Damon could have pulled that role off just as good, if not better. Yes, Matt Damon. Again, I don't like Matt Damon because of some of the stupid shit that he said in interviews. But I do like his acting, and I do like a lot of his movies. I feel the same way about him that I feel about John Wayne and Mark Wahlberg. They all said stupid shit, and some of the shit they said was downright inflammatory. But I still like their movies. I'm in it for the art when it comes to my movie collection. So, Yeah, that's it. So that's some movies right there that the scripts had other actors in mind, or the actors that the studios wanted rejected the role. And we got Matt Damon rejecting Harvey Dent and The Dark Knight. We got Josh Hartnett rejecting the role of Batman Bruce Wayne and Batman Begins. I think he probably kicked himself in the ass for that one, because this went on to become a mega franchise. Al Pacino, Han Solo. That would have been an interesting take. Al Pacino as Han Solo. But I'm glad we got Harrison Ford. Sean Connery, Sir Sean Connery as Gandalf. But I'm glad we got Ian McKellen. That would have worked either way. That would have worked either way. Tom Hanks rejecting Jerry Maguire, and I'm kind of glad he did. I think he would have did a good job in the role, no doubt about that. I think Tom Hanks is one of those actors you can give him just about any script and he can pull it off. Just about. But I'm glad we got Tom Cruise, because again, like I said, Tom Cruise, his swag worked well with Cuba. Him and Cuba chemistry was incredible in this movie. It really was. I'll be honest with y'all, and I'm just ranting here. If you think about the role of Forrest Gump and you think about the movie Radio, tell me Cuba Gooding Jr. couldn't have done the hell out of Forrest Gump. Tell me he couldn't have done it. Tell me. Cuba Gooding Jr. is another actor who's got really, really good range. He just never blew up and became A-tier. But if you think about Forrest Gump and you think about Cuba Gooding Jr. In Radio, you tell me he couldn't do Forrest Gump. Yeah, he could have. Yeah, he could have. That's sidebar. Cuba was not offered the job. I'm just, saying, since I had Jerry Maguire in my hand, I'm just going off on a little rant. Denzel Washington rejecting Seven. I'm going to say either way. We would have lucked out either way. Denzel would have came in and took over as Mills. It would have still been a good movie. It would have been a good movie. No doubt about that. Yeah, so we win either way. And on Jerry Maguire, we would have won even if we got Tom Hanks, but I'm glad we got Cruise. This one, to me, it really didn't matter. Will Smith rejecting the role of Neo. I'm going to say I'm glad he did, because Keanu, he did that. And I think Will Smith would have brought a different presence to the screen on that movie. A presence that this movie really didn't need, to be honest with you. And again, I'm not taking nothing from Will Smith. And then, now, when you switch gears to The Matrix 2, where Neo was fully the one, he did tighten up his swag with the fancy overcoat, the shades. He did tighten it up. So maybe, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, I'm thinking about the first movie, because that's the one that Will rejected, the first movie. So yeah, I mean, like I said, Will could have done it, but I don't know if he would have been the right guy for the first movie because of how it started. That's what I'm thinking about. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about the whole movie in its totality, not just after Keanu became the one. Everything leading up to it, you know? Tom Hanks rejecting Andy Dufresne. I'm going to say either way. We would have won either way. If we would have got Tom Hanks as Andy Dufresne or Tim Robbins. But I'm glad we got who we got. And all of these, I'm for the most part glad we got who we got. But I think Tom Hanks would have did a good job as Andy Dufresne. I do. But I'm glad we got Tim Robbins. Tom Hanks and Halle Berry for Speed versus Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. I'm going to say either way. We would have won either way, because both casting choices was on point, in my opinion. Tom Cruise would have did the shit out of this, and I think Halle Berry would have did it. And I'm not a fan of Halle Berry, but the role wasn't really, it was a big role. She was the co-star, but it wasn't a whole lot she was doing. You feel me? So I don't think Halle Berry could have fucked that role up. Casino Royale, Hugh Jackman turning down the role of 00. I think I understand why he did it. And I'm kind of glad he did it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think hold up. Let me pause that shit real quick. I think Hugh Jackman would have did it. I think Hugh Jackman would have did a good job in this. I ain't gonna lie. Better than Daniel Craig? Man, probably not, because Daniel Craig, he was oozing with machismo in all the movies. Everybody who plays Bond oozes with machismo. Let me just take that off the table. That's part of the game with Bond. That's part of the game with Bond. You just got to be that dude if you're going to play Bond. And I think Daniel Craig did a great job. And I think after Casino Royale hit theaters, everybody accepted him as Bond. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't know if I didn't see the thing with me and Hugh Jackman. I love Hugh Jackman, don't get me wrong. I would have had to see him in something similar to this in order for me to kind of visualize it. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't see Hugh Jackman doing this because I haven't seen him do anything similar. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Jack Nicholson as Michael Corleone. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Jack Nicholson, yeah, playing a crime member of a crime family, absolutely, yeah. So I'm going to say either or on that one, either or. Jack Nicholson would have did a great job as Michael Corleone, absolutely, yes. John Travolta rejecting the role of Forrest Gump, I think that was for the best. Could John Travolta have done this movie? Yes. But I'm glad we got who we got in Tom Hanks. I think John Travolta could have done it. He's got the range. But I just think, when I think about the movies that these guys done, the great movies that John Travolta done versus the great movies that Tom Hanks has done, me personally, I just think Tom Hanks got more of a dynamic range than John Travolta. And that's not taking nothing from John Travolta. It's just certain movies that I'm just going to say I'm glad we got who we got. Well, guys, that's 10 or 11 movies where the scripts was written with other actors in mind, or the script was passed around, notable actors rejected the role, and we got what we got, and all of these movies went on to become super successful movies. So there it is.